Well, good morning, and a beautiful morning it is here. I'm quite sure as I sit here in church, many of you are in the garden or the park or perhaps even the beach. And I mention the beach because hopefully that's where I'm heading next week. There will not be a reflection this time next week because I'm on vacation and I'm going to be in sunny Ayrshire with family and friends. So it will be 2 weeks before you hear from me again. But to begin our time of worship this morning, Lindsay is going to sing for us, Make Me a Channel of Your Peace. Thank you, Lindsay.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Oh, Master God, that I may never see. So much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there's darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Oh, Master, grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, in giving to all men that we receive, and in dying that we're born to eternal life.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was lovely. Well, a big part of my ministry here at Musselburgh Congregational Church is the pastoral care of the very elderly, the frail and the housebound. And they so enjoy when I visit, and believe it or not, I sit quite quietly most of the time and enjoy listening to people reminiscing about how life used to be in the 30s, in the 40s and in the 50s. People really enjoy sharing their memories. And my goodness, how different life was in these decades. There were very few cars on the road. Children played out in the streets from dawn until dusk. And people knew everyone, not just in the stairwell, not just in the street, but practically the whole. There were no big supermarkets on the edge of town for people to go to for a big shop in these days. All the shops were local. The whole of Fisher Row, I'm told the Co-op was a great place, and I think half of Musselburgh worked there. And are over the bridge, for those that dare to cross that bridge and go to Musselburgh, the high street was just full of everything imaginable that people wanted to buy could be purchased locally. And so people went out on a daily basis and they met friends and neighbours, and there was a tremendous familiarity in the neighbourhood. And I'm told that the highlight of the week was going to the wash house. Now that's quite hard for me to imagine that being the highlight of the week, but it was. The ladies loved to go. The child would be out the pram and the washing would be in the pram, and off they would go to the wash house and meet up with friends. And I can just hardly begin to imagine the noise of the chatter, and seemingly everyone helped one another, and it was just a super outing for people. How life has changed. We are now living in a generation that's more connected than any other in history, and yet loneliness is a real problem. Statistics show that loneliness is very problematic in the developed world, especially because we're now living in isolation. Everything's at the click of a switch, whether it's on the phone, on social media, on the PC. We can actually live life without coming into physical contact with other people. And I know that the last 18 months have been exceptionally hard for all of us, and there have been times when we have been lonely, and certainly many times where we have been on our own. Talking on a computer screen or a phone call, it's not the same as a face-to-face conversation with body language and eye contact and just that friendly embrace. God created us to live in community with one another. And if we want to broaden our circle of friends, then the best way to do this is to be a friend and to reach out to others. It's always better to think of what we can do to share the load of another rather than thinking of what others can do to share our load. And just think, if we all did that, just think of the companionship and support that would flow through all of our lives. And sometimes when we are failed by people, that it just brings into stark focus the unfailing love of God and the constancy of his presence and his friendship. However, we can be quite guilty of being selfish in our faith. Very often, and I'm guilty of this too, our prayers are mostly focused on what God can give us, how God can help us, what God can do for us. How often do we turn to him and say, Father, take me as I am. I can come no other way, and just use me for the purposes of your kingdom. Whatever you are doing, Father, may I play my part. And now some people might be thinking, how could God possibly use someone like me? But we are all God's children. We are all precious in his sight, and he loves when we offer our time or our experience or our talents. When a great orchestra plays, it's usually the strings or the brass that make the loudest noise and play the greatest part. But there are moments when it's the turn of the wee flute to be heard, and their part may be small, but it matters, and it makes a difference, and that's what truly matters. All of us can make a difference. May God use us this day, if in nothing else, in the sharing of his great love. Thanks be to God. Alison's going to sing for us now. Certain women served the Lord with all they had. Thank you, Alison.